Hi, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today I'm going to start a series on Orca Slicer, how to install, set it up, and then run some of the calibrations. So let's go ahead and get started. So in this video, I'm going to cover how to install Orca Slicer on Windows. The steps are pretty much the same if you want to do it on Mac as well. Then I'll show you how to set up a printer profile, and we'll print our first test print. And in following videos, I'll show you how to use the configuration tools and set up Orca Slicer, give you the best prints and also the quickest. So let's start with the install. The first step you want to do is to open up your browser and search for Orca Slicer. One of the first results should be the GitHub page. So you want to go to the SawFever/Orca Slicer GitHub page. I have that open right here. So once you're on the GitHub repository, you can scroll down, look at the main features, look at how to install, and other instructions you might need. So once we're at this page, we're now ready to download and start the install process. From the GitHub page, you want to look for releases, and you can find that on the right-hand side. And right now, the last release is version 1.8.1. You check out my release notes video above. You can take a look at what's in that release. I'm just going to click here where it says 46 releases. And again, remember that in the future, there might be a different release, so the number of releases is just going to increase. So I'm going to click on this, and that opens up the latest release. Now, what it's showing me now is the alpha release for Orca Slicer 1.9.0. I wouldn't install pre-release, particularly if you're new to Orca Slicer. May introduce some bugs and other issues. You're better off just scrolling down, and we're looking for the latest release. And here's the latest official release, so that's the 1.8.1. I keep scrolling, I'm looking for the assets section. So here we go. Here's assets. On my Windows machine, I'm going to download the Orca Slicer Windows installer 1.8.1.exe. So let's start that download process, and that'll take a couple minutes. While that's happening, let's just look at some of these other files that are available. So here's Orca Slicer for the M1, M2, and M3 chipsets for Apple. And then here's the Mac version for the Intel chips. Again, you just download these. It's pretty much the same steps for Mac and for Windows. Now, in my case, it looks like the installer is done downloading. And rather than click my browser here, because this might be different for everybody, I'm going to open up File Explorer. And I'm going to look for downloads. So in my downloads folder, here is the Orca Slicer installer, and install that. Now, the install is fairly straightforward. I'm just going to double click on the installer. I want to hit yes. And then I'm just going to select all the defaults here. And this will take a couple of minutes to install. So we'll come back in a minute. As you can see, I've finished installing Orca Slicer, so I'm just going to click finish here. In my case, I like to move the shortcut down in taskbar. And let me delete it off the desktop because I like to keep that nice and clean. And I'm going to go ahead and run Orca Slicer for the first time. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Orca Slicer is based off Bamboo Studio. That's the slicer developed by Bamboo Labs, which is based on Prusa Slicer, which is based on Slicer. So this software does have a long lineage. Orca Slicer itself is cutting edge and tends to have newer features than Bamboo Studio Lab. Let's click on the link, and we're now loading the configuration. Now, Orca Slicer, as you can see, does have a wizard to get started. Start with that. I'm going to select, in my case, North America. You want to select your location as appropriate. Now I'm just going to scroll down here, and let's find the printer I want to start with. I have a CR6SE. So let's use that. I'm just going to select the 0.4 nozzle, which is what I use. Click next. I'm going to add these filaments, and just to stop being nagged, I'm going to install the Bamboo Network plugin. I don't really need it, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Otherwise, it will ask me periodically. So that's installed successfully. Now my profile is here, so if I just hit New Project, you'll see that open up a window to my printer. A little bit bigger. And let's do a quick review of the interface so we can see where everything's at. And then I'll start an initial test print, and then we'll pause and I'll start a new video on configuring and setting things up. Starting out with the generic initial printer profile. And for right now, I think I'll just leave this as is. Normally I'd rename this, and I'll do this in my next set of videos. Right now, if I click the advanced toggle here, you'll see all my settings show up. Now it takes a little getting used to where everything's located. Now, as I mentioned, I'm starting off with this default profile. And just to make things more interesting, rather than doing a whole lot of configuration and changing this around, I'm just going to load in a Benchy and just print with the default profile. Let me see if I can figure out how to add it. So I'm just going to hit this add button up here, and let me navigate down and find my Benchy. So as you can see, I've loaded the Benchy, and let's just look at some of the controls here we have. So I have the ability to add a plate and then delete that plate. So that I can have multiple plates lined up for my next print. If I select the Benchy, I have an auto orient tool here. It doesn't do anything because this is oriented appropriately. Let's try moving this around. So now I've made my Benchy lopsided. Click on it. My auto orient, fix it. Correct. I can arrange all objects. And we're just going to allow multiple materials in the same plate. I don't care about that. I'm going to just hit auto arrange and arrange. It doesn't move, but let's move this around. Try that again. I'll move that over here. Hit the auto arrange. Moves it back to the center of the bed, which is what I want. I can set up variable layer height here. I can move an object, rotate it, mess with the scale. Here's a function to have it lay on a specific face. So let's click on this front face here. As you can see, it moves the Benchy upside down. Now let's just click on the Benchy, auto orient it back where I need it. I can cut the Benchy. I can do support painting, scene painting. I can add text, and then I can do an assembly view. Let's just look at the functions here. So I can customize the current plate, lock it, arrange the objects, and again, simple functionality. Now, rather than cover everything over here on the left-hand side for all the settings, I'm just going to go up here and hit Slice Plate. And if we look over here, it looks like this is going to take 1 hour and 51 minutes, and this is unoptimized. And let's export the G-code. And I'm just going to save that to where I put everything so I can upload it to the printer. That's all saved. And then let's send it to the printer. I've uploaded the Benchy to my printer. Now I'm just going to hit print. So I'm going to let that print, and then we'll take a look at what the Benchy looks like with just the default settings. And this will, of course, take at least 1 hour and 51 minutes or thereabouts. So I'm going to pause, and we'll come back and take a look at that. As you can see, I finished the Benchy. Now I will point out that the print failed here at the top. Actually got knocked over. Most of the time with the Benchy, I print with the brim. This time I did not. Also, I noticed the printer didn't run a bed level before it did the print. Normally, when I do a print, I prefer to always run a bed level before I print. So I need to add that to my start code. You notice there's a lot of stringing here, so my retraction's not correct. Now, I apologize, I used a shiny silk filament that's 2-color. Mainly, I did this working on a project for local school kids where I'm printing some flexible prints, some print-in-place prints to give to them as desk pets, what the teacher's calling them, and the kids really seem to enjoy it. And so I tried to get some fun colors to print with. So this was one of the quote-unquote fun colors. I should point out fun is not really what I'm known for. I do functional, but not fun. Anyway, so the Benchy looks pretty good just with the default settings, but I'm going to, in my next video, work on optimizing the settings. And then once I optimize the settings, have them the way I want, I'm going to go ahead and work my way through the calibration of the printer. So I want to thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. I try to get back to everybody as soon as I can. Also, if there's something you'd like to see in a future video, let me know. I'm in the process of creating a content calendar so I can actually sort of formalize what I want to do with each video instead of being more spur of the moment. But anyway, thank you again for joining me, and I hope you've had a great holiday season. Hi, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If you need some additional help, I've also posted some links in the video description. You can set up a 15-minute help session with me, and I'm more than happy to sit down with you and see if I can help you out. If you need some additional help, I'm also going to try doing 1-hour sessions for anybody that's interested. And like I said, I'm testing this stuff out. I want to thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again next time. Thanks. Have a good day.